cowboy who became an outlaw. Thomas Edward Ketchum, known as Blackjack, was born on October 31st, 1863 in San Saba County, Texas. Thomas was the youngest of 8 children of 6 boys and 2 girls. Tom's older brother Sam was married and had 2 children, but he left his wife and children. Sam Ketchum joined Tom working as a cowboy in the Pecos River Valley of New Mexico. In 1892, Tom, his brother Sam, and several other outlaws learned that an Atchison railroad carrying a large payroll and on its way to Deming, New Mexico. The gang planned the train robbery near Nutt, New Mexico, a water station about 20 miles north of Deming. The gang held up the train at gunpoint and stole approximately $20,000 in cash. In today's money, it would be around $650,000. During the robbery, the conductor slipped away and made his way to Nutt, where he telegraphed for assistance. A posse was soon on its way from Lake Valley, 18 miles to the north. The gang, however, was gone and well hidden in their safe house by the time the posse arrived, and soon later, Blackjack quickly slipped into Arizona, and the $20,000 was never found. In late 1895, the brothers worked at the Bell Ranch until early June 1896, when they quit, stealing supplies from the ranch. They arrived on June 10th at Liberty, New Mexico, a small settlement north of present-day Tucumcari. At night, they robbed a local store and post office managed by Levi and Morris Hurdston. Following the robbery, the Ketchum brothers rode to the Pecos River, pursued by Levi Hurdston and several other men. A gun battle escalated at the Pecos River, killing the majority of the posse. The brothers then traveled back to Arizona. On September 3, 1897, Blackjack and his gang were back at it, robbing another train and fleeing with an estimated $20,000 in gold and $40,000 in silver. They fled after the robbery and took refuge in a cave south of Folsom, New Mexico, where they remained until the next day. 2 years later, the gang struck again, this time without the assistance of Blackjack. Sam Ketchum, Bill Carver, and Elza Lay, aka William McGinnis, stole $50,000 from a train in Folsom, New Mexico, after camping at Dry Canyon. A posse soon followed them to a hideout near Cimarron, New Mexico. The outlaws were better armed with higher-powered rifles and smokeless powder, whereas the posse used traditional black powder guns, the smoke of which gave away their positions. Sam and McGinnis were both wounded and captured during the gun battle. The posse did relatively even worse, with 2 of its members killed and another injured, including Sheriff Edward Farr. Sam was captured, but his wound caused him to develop gangrene. He died in the Santa Fe Penitentiary on July 24, 1899. McGinnis was convicted for the murder of Ed Farr, the sheriff, receiving a life sentence in prison. Meanwhile, Blackjack, unaware of his brother Sam's fate, attempted a final solitary train robbery on August 16, 1899. He rode to the location where he planned to rob the train after waiting in a cave south of Folsom until after dark. He planned to board the train from the baggage car's blind side, where he could disconnect the mail and express cars from the rest of the train, but things didn't go through as he had hoped for. To get the engineer and firemen to stop the train, he sneaked onto the engine and pulled a gun on them. Frank Harrington, whose train was being held up for the 3rd time, had finally had enough. He went to the baggage car with a shotgun and carefully opened the door, pointed the gun at Tom. Tom, on the other hand, was too quick for him and shot at Harrington, nearly hit him. Harrington also fired around the same time, striking Blackjack in the right elbow and nearly severing the arm. Tom jumped out of the train and down the bank. Harrington directed the engineer and firemen to move the train as quickly as possible. Resuming its journey, the train stopped at each station to report the attempted robbery and to alert law enforcement to the presence of a badly injured man nearby. Blackjack later reported, "I tried a dozen times to mount my horse, but was too weak to do it." He sat down, exhausted and dizzy from the pain, waiting for the posse. The next morning, a freight train headed from Folsom passed by the robbery scene. A man was seated about 100 yards from the train, waving his hat on the end of his gun as a signal. When the train came to a halt and the conductor and brakeman approached, Blackjack drew his gun on them. The conductor said, "We just came to help you, but if this is the way you feel, we will go and leave you." Blackjack said, "No, boys, I'm all done. Take me in." He was transferred to San Rafael Hospital in Trinidad, Colorado, on the first passenger train, and his arm was amputated because of the gunshot wound. When he was able to travel, he was transferred to Clayton, New Mexico for trial, where he pleaded innocent, but was found guilty by the judge and sentenced to death by hanging. The execution was postponed several times until law enforcement learned that the old gang was planning to attempt to free Tom. As a result, a decision was reached and the hanging was set for April 26, 1901 at 8 a.m. The hanging was a big draw, with stores and saloons closing. People came from all over the area to see the big event, where local officers sold tickets to see the hanging as well as small dolls of Tom hanging on a stick. Nobody in Clayton had any experience with hangings. The rope was too long, and because Ketchum had gained weight during his time in jail, he was decapitated when he fell through the trap door. Newspapers reported that the incident splattered blood on spectators, of which there were many that day. In a tragic turn of events, the law that allowed Ketchum to be hung for attempted train robbery was later ruled unconstitutional, and with no doubt as a result of his difficult life and horrifying death, some believe Blackjack Ketchum's ghost still roams the old hideouts he used as an outlaw. Thanks for watching the video.